Murphy's Law. Originally, the context in which it was created is humorous, isn't it? You're talking about cognitive bias, right? Basically. Cognitive bias is, for example, when you drop your smartphone, it always seems to fall glass side down, doesn't it? When the bread falls, it always falls with the buttered side down. That's called cognitive bias. But because that impression is so strong, those kinds of things inevitably happen. That's the kind of discussion we're having in the first place. If that turns around and there is a possibility, it will happen someday, connected to this.
It seems like it's not always the case. It apparently depends on the price of the carpet.
There are stories like that too, that's for sure. I would say it's almost 100%. This means that it is not a cognitive bias. This, the butter spread on the bread always falls with the butter side down.
It was impressive that it fell from the buttered side, and don't remember it falling normally.
I used to think that way in the past. However, there are people who experiment. This is 100%.
What is that?
This has already been decided. There is a place for humans to handle things. In the case of a smartphone, it would have to be dropped from a height of approximately 6 meters before it could be rotated again. When objects fall, flat objects do not fall vertically from your hand. When that happens, whether it's bread or anything else, it will inevitably rotate half a turn as it falls. If the height is less than 6 meters, it will not rotate once. It will not fall facing the surface. It's already known that it will definitely fall on the backside. There are people who experiment with it. In other words, Murphy's Law expresses that things that were once cognitive biases eventually become reality.
Is it really okay to say that Interstellar is not science fiction?
This Interstellar is a realistic sci-fi, so it's actually hard to turn it upside down, so to speak. That's why I don't know what will happen today.
Ensure your statement from the beginning.
It's the same as international in the title. Considering that it's between countries, I guess it's more like between stars. By the way, Interstellar is a movie whose catchphrase is, "The end of the Earth is not the end of humanity." With a production cost of $165 million, approximately 10 billion yen, director Christopher released this highly anticipated movie. Let's talk today about whether or not we should believe the tagline of Interstellar. This movie is quite special, as it was supervised by Kip Thorne, who is one of the most famous theoretical physicists in the world, and is said to be a great expert on the theory of general relativity. So it's a story that has a lot of realism, isn't it? The movie has a solid backbone, Conversely, it's very difficult. At first, people around said, it's going to be a movie that doesn't make any sense. The director even said, Kip Thorne's work was more exciting and important than my own activities as a screenwriter. This indicates that the film relied quite heavily on him.
The good thing about this work is that there are few characters.
It's easy to understand. It's there.
The content is quite difficult to understand, but if there are also a lot of characters, it becomes chaotic. However, since the main characters are limited, it was very easy to understand. Let me briefly introduce the characters. The main character is Cooper, and he has a daughter named Murphy. They are parent and child. Also, the older brother and grandfather appear, but they don't have much to do with the story. The one referred to as Grandpa is Murphy's grandpa. Cooper's wife has passed away before him. Is that her father? The person mentioned, Professor Brand, is the head of a project called the Lazarus Project. His daughter is Dr. Brand, Amelia Brand. They are parent and child. The ones inside this blue base will set off into space as a team. Doyle, Ramilly, and the robots Case and Tars will embark on this journey as a party. There are actually people who have gone ahead into space for exploration. Strictly speaking, there are 12 of them, but these 3 are the ones who come to mind. Moreover, only the names Edmunds and Miller are mentioned. And then Dr. Mann.
The person who conducted this is a top leader, a very outstanding doctor.
And this doctor becomes the lover of a person named Edmunds.
These Doyle and Romilly are just doctors, right?
The story progresses in that manner. This is Murphy, and this is the protagonist, Cooper. This is Grandpa, and this is my older brother. The 4 of us live together. And then the books fall off the shelf. It's like a mysterious paranormal phenomenon is happening. It's a poltergeist.
I'll say it with this face.
Maybe Murphy is in 5th or 6th grade.
Isn't it an elementary school student?
In response, the father said something like, "Don't be afraid of ghosts, delve deeper. Record and analyze the facts, investigate the phenomena, and then draw conclusions. Got it?"
Difficult.
Even so, I understand.
Oh, so you understood.
The story begins with a rather enthusiastic and passionate father who is very dedicated to education. First, It begins with a situation where a sandstorm is occurring.
In this abnormal weather, it's not raining. And probably because it's not raining, something like a sandstorm is occurring. Another thing is that, due to the plague, wheat and other crops failed. And in the end, the only thing left was corn, right? In this world. Therefore, all other staple foods are planned to be eliminated. It was something like that, wasn't it? In a world where most plants have disappeared. They say that oxygen is also running out. So, it starts with a plague, then terrestrial plants disappear, leading to desertification and sandstorms. I think that's the kind of story it is.
In the opening, there was a story like, it's a poltergeist, or something like that, wasn't there? The same book keeps falling. That's probably why, no matter how many times you fix it, the same book keeps falling. This is where Murphy is deciphering the gaps between the books as Morse code. I counted the gaps. It might be a message from a ghost. I can't believe the bookshelf is talking. It's like gasp. One day, I went to watch a baseball game. Then, in the middle of the game, there was a huge sandstorm. It was like, oh no, the windows were left wide open, and the room was in a terrible state. It looks like there are some lines from above, doesn't it? The sand is flowing down. My father is also very intrigued.
If this situation were to occur, you'd naturally look into it, right?
See, it's not a ghost, it's gravity. It's not Morse, it's binary. The thick line is 1, the thin line is 0. What does this binary data represent? Coordinates. On the map, you're identifying a location. You don't know what is there, but for some reason, it's pointing to that place. As a result, my father and I decided to head to the location indicated by the binary code together, and then we arrive at the mysterious location marked on the map. It's kind of like freeze, you know. Dad was surprised. Murphy was surprised too.
This, made me think that aliens had come.
So, the two of them got caught, didn't they? How did you find this place? You are being interrogated, aren't you? I learned about this place because of the strange incident that happened at home. The moment I mentioned gravity, everyone's eyes changed. You think we don't understand? It's NASA. For some reason, they were guided to that NASA facility by a binary code. Please tell me how to save the Earth. It is not about saving. It is about leaving the Earth. That is the Lazarus Project. Lazarus is said to be a figure who once died but was brought back to life by Christ. The Lazarus Project embodies meanings such as revival and regeneration. A veteran pilot is needed, someone like you. There is no choice. You have been chosen. To them, you say.
People who are hard to understand.
So there is an anomaly in gravity. Near Saturn, space-time is being distorted. Wormhole, where does it lead to? To another galaxy. It wouldn't occur naturally, would it? Someone made it. Was it them? Whoever it is, they're trying to help us. We can go search for a habitable planet. I started it 10 years ago. Is that the Lazarus Project? The 12 Ranger ships embarked on a journey of possibilities. Examine whether the star is habitable, and if it is, send a signal and enter the capsule, then wait for rescue. So I got a reply saying that I can live starting from 3 stars. Basically, in the solar system and everywhere else, there's nowhere we can live, right? That's how it is. If you could travel to another galaxy through a wormhole like that, it might be there. So when you go, it's like, there it is.
There's quite a lot, isn't there?
The Lazarus plan has a plan A and a plan B. Plan A is to move to a space station. Plan B's population bomb, take over 5,000 fertilized eggs into space and let them grow there. Let's trigger a population explosion there. Are you going to abandon the humans currently on Earth then? That's why I'm hoping for the success of Plan A. Well, B is a backup, and at worst, it's B. I'm wishing for A.
The priority is Plan A. That's what you're saying, right?
So, the doctor said, I've almost solved the equation for this mystery of gravity, but I haven't completely solved it yet. While on a journey to explore space, I will definitely solve the mystery of gravity before I return. My dad got really excited about going, and Murphy got angry and wouldn't come out of his room. It's something like, you can leave me behind, but I don't want you to go. In response, Grandpa said, listen, don't make promises you can't keep. In that case, Dad has to set off on his journey. He told Murphy, I want to make up before I go. I could never understand what Mom said before. Parents live on in their children's memories. They are ghosts that see their children's future. I said, I was chosen. Then Murphy was able to decipher the Morse code. The text said, S-T-A-Y, stay. It's telling you not to go. I'll definitely come back. You said that earlier, didn't you? Grandpa always said, don't make promises you can't keep. I might have done just that.
They're doing it, aren't they? Going to space And furthermore, being part of a plan to go through something mysterious like a wormhole to some incomprehensible galaxy, and then come back, saying, "I'll definitely return," is, well, impossible, isn't it?
He said, "I'll give you a watch. I've also set the time. Time passes in space too, but it's slower than on Earth. When you get back, let's compare them. When I return to Earth, I might be the same age as you. Don't you know when you'll come back? Liar."
You wanted this face, didn't you?
I thought it would make him happy, so I tried to please my dad a little, but it turned out to be like, "You don't know when you're coming back, do you?" And he ended up saying, "Liar. I love you. That's why I will definitely return." It's about not making promises you can't keep, isn't it? I will definitely come back. So the father left his daughter behind and went to space. Currently on this machine are Cooper, Dr. Brand, Romilly, Doyle, and Tars, and Case. These 4 people and 2 bodies. Here, Tars, the robot. What is your honesty level? 90%. Perfect honesty can sometimes hurt the feelings of others. That's why I keep it at 90%. Something like that. Let's also go with 90%. So I'm going to sleep for 2 years in cryo-sleep. 8 months to Mars.
It says, so, it will take 14 months to perform a gravity turn.
The phrase, "from now on, Dad will enter a long sleep," means that you'll transfer data and communicate using something like a video call. And it's already been 2 years. Wake up. It's only 3 hours until the wormhole, and we're almost there. So, we're about to enter the wormhole. Them! You encounter them inside the wormhole, don't you? Looking at something I don't quite understand. Did I reach out my hand and touch it? Such a situation is happening, isn't it?
The space around here was distorted, wasn't it? Like wobbly, wobbly, wobbly.
As I mentioned earlier, among the 12 pioneers, there were Dr. Mann, someone named Edmunds, and someone named Miller. The closest one is a star where someone named Miller is located. All 3 of these were said to be livable, so we thought we'd start by going to the closest one. The star of Mirror is promising. It's the closest. We have one problem. We are closer to Gargantua than expected. The term Gargantua refers to a black hole. The star is on its orbit. In short, this person named Miller is saying that the place where you can live is actually a planet orbiting a black hole. If you get too close, you'll be swallowed by the darkness. There's also the issue of time, isn't there? That's the big problem. This planet has strong gravity, and the flow of time is considerably slow. 1 hour on Miller's planet is equivalent to 7 years on Earth. 1 hour is 7 years, you know. So Cooper says, let's give up on Miller's planet.
That's usually how it goes. Because there's already a black hole right there.
Cooper is indeed my daughter. The age difference with a child is important, isn't it?
Yes. That's why I want to go home right away.
Given that, having a small age gap with children might be problematic. Let's give up on the Mirror star. It's like, think about humanity rather than your own family.
If we take the ship itself, it uses a lot of fuel and takes a lot of time. So the idea is to go close by and then quickly return using that small plane, the Ranger, which would be very efficient.
Cooper, Dr. Brand, Doyle, and Tars are going.
Only this old man remains.
If you're staying here, you'll be researching gravity. This person will be house-sitting, just spending 1 hour, and really 7 years have passed.
It's like bam, and suddenly 7 years have passed. It's such a fast pace that you can't even experience it.
This is Gargantua.
It's Gargantua. That's amazing, isn't it?
If we can observe a singularity, we can unravel gravity. In other words, if we have information about the singularity, we can understand the secrets of gravity.
I find it a bit difficult to understand, but in any case, it seems like they're going to measure something at the singularity. It's really bright, isn't it? This is what's happening now. It's a black hole, you know. The matter around it rotates, and that's why it emits light. You see that round thing up there? It's really beautiful, isn't it? I think this is probably a disk, just a simple one. There's a round part on top too, right? I think it's probably being seen as round due to a gravitational lens. The black part in the middle is the area where light cannot escape.
And with that, I've arrived. The planet that this pioneer named Miller visited was a water planet. The 1 hour here is 7 years, so don't waste it. With that said, we search for where this Miller is, and it seems this is Miller's vehicle. Perhaps the wreckage was discovered. The rest? The mountainside. It's not a mountain. It's waves. It's a big wave.
It's beyond a big wave.
Both of you, come back immediately. Brand, Doyle, and Tars have gone on an exploration, and Cooper is now waiting on the ship for everyone to return. Here, Doyle was a hair's breadth away, but didn't make it in time. Swallowed by the wave, it's over. Even though I was told to come back, I didn't come back easily.
Yes, Amelia did.
It's something like data more important than life. It ended up taking quite a bit of time. How many years have you wasted? Probably several decades. What about the mirror? I think it was hit directly by a big wave. While we're doing this, humanity will perish. So, with the next wave coming, I hurriedly zoomed back.
I'll provide a brief explanation about black holes. I don't think the exact criteria for the formation of black holes are fully understood. A celestial body, a star about 20 to 30 times the size of the Sun, explodes with a bang when it finally runs out of fuel and collapses. The remaining neutron star is too heavy, so it shrinks even further under its own weight, resulting in the formation of a black hole. It becomes an extremely small point, almost infinitely close to zero. That is what is referred to as a black hole. The latest research has revealed that there are between 100 million and 1 billion black holes in our galaxy. By the way, the big wave from earlier. In the explanation, it was a 1-200-meter wave. That is happening due to the tidal forces of Gargantua. If you were thinking of waking up something on the scale of 1,000 meters, well, it would have to be something like Gargantua, though I don't really know how amazing Gargantua is. By the way, I tried calculating it. It's about how much the gravity of this Gargantua has an effect and what it's like. You know the speed of light, right? It travels at a speed of 300,000 kilometers in 1 second. So in 1 hour, it would take 7 years, meaning time passes nearly 60,000 times faster on the planet of the mirrors. I calculated how much acceleration would be needed for time to pass at 60,000 times the normal speed. The question is about how close to the light something would need to be to become 60,000 times brighter. It was found that unless the speed is 299,792 kilometers per second, time will not be compressed to 60,000 times faster. What that means is, the planet of Mira is traveling not just at sublight speed, but almost at the speed of light. If the speed of light is considered to be 100%, then that speed is 99.99987%. It is said to be close to the speed of light. Otherwise, such a time difference would hardly occur. It revolves at about that speed. Alternatively, if we calculate based on gravity alone, the Earth we live on has a gravity of 1g, right? When we calculated how much g would be needed for time to increase by 60,000 times, it turns out that you would need to be exposed to about 700 million g for the difference of 1 hour equaling 7 years to occur. It is said that only gravity can transcend time here. I looked into various things, but in the end, I just couldn't understand it. I wonder what it means for this gravity to transcend time. Certainly, light gets blocked, doesn't it? If there's a wall, it gets blocked, right? It doesn't pass through, does it? No, you're right. With radio waves of a slightly longer wavelength, they can pass through or be shielded, right? However, there is currently no technology to shield gravity. It doesn't exist. It's not possible to completely shut off gravity. So in a way, I wonder if it's a mechanism that exists in a dimension even higher than light.
The story goes that over a dozen years have passed, but earlier, Romilly, who said he would stay behind to continue researching, was experiencing the passage of time in the same way as on Earth, which means there is a time difference between him and these two. How many years has it been? 23 years, 4 months, and 8 days.
This is really like a prison, isn't it?
You've been waiting for 23 years, haven't you? On the mothership.
These people just came back briefly, right? But it's been 23 years.
This is how Romilly looks now, and this is Romilly from 23 years ago. That much.
Aren't you looking younger? Well, there are people like that, aren't there?
Is this all there is after 23 years? Kind of like that. On the contrary, since it's a movie, wouldn't it be okay to go even more extreme? Something like that. I analyzed the black hole, but I couldn't send the data to the professor. I can only receive, not send. Because of that, there are 23 years worth of messages accumulated from video calls. This is my son. The phrase, "You haven't heard this, right?" implies that there has been no contact for 23 years. The son sends messages to his father, but there is no response.
They're not coming back, you know.
There's a message from Murphy, too. You said, "Maybe we'll be the same age when we return to Earth," didn't you? I have reached the same age as you were on that day.
It's already tough here.
The daughter, who had such a big age difference, is now the same age as me. You promised to come back.
That's right. It's because of Mira's star.
Actually, Murphy is working as Professor Brand's assistant at NASA. I hope I can solve the equation before I kick the bucket. The journey into space is an interstellar voyage from star to star.
It comes out here, doesn't it?
The only keyword that appeared in the movie was interstellar. So, since Miller's planet didn't work out, we're moving on to the next planet. The ones left are either Edmunds or Dr. Mann's planet. Which one should we choose? Dr. Brand Amelia recommends Edmunds. What's the reason? Edmunds is my lover. Because we're lovers, right? You want to see me, don't you? Something like that.
The distance to Edmunds is farther. So wouldn't Dr. Mann be better? It seems like Cooper is suggesting something like that.
However, Edmunds is likely to be deceased. He might already be dead. But Dr. Amelia says she wants to go. I want to follow my honest feelings. Because love is an observable force. There is some meaning. Love has a special meaning. We just don't understand. This might be a clue. It connects to higher dimensions that we cannot perceive. Beyond the galaxies, it is being drawn in. Love is something we can also perceive. It transcends both time and space. I think it's okay to believe in love, even if it's an unknown power. Is that a mistake? It is a mistake. You made an objective decision, didn't you? But how long can you keep saying that implies you are also calculating the fuel for the return trip. The point is, if we go to Edmund's location, we won't have enough fuel to return. It's too far. If we go to Dr. Mann's location, we can return, and I can see my daughter. The point is, with this, if Mann's planet doesn't work out, we'll have to decide whether to return or head to Edmund's planet. Something like, will you go back to see your child, or choose the future of humanity and go to Edmund's, make an objective decision? And then there's this smile.
Yes, it's ironic.
Earlier, you mentioned the topic about gravity and light, and there's a discussion about how gravity might be in a higher dimension than light, isn't there? When you say love in one word, you tend to think of something between men and women, right? But really, it's about whether there's something physical, like light or gravity, in the same way that love exists. Until I saw this, I had never thought about it like that at all. The expression physical was used because I believe that love is something that exists only on a spiritual level.
So, it means that it's not something that can be observed, right?
That's right. However, the power and energy that can be observed. If you put it that way, when you talk about love, I think the image is not that love itself is energy, but rather like a catalyst for doing something. But the idea is that love itself is energy. I felt like maybe it's okay to think of love in the same way as light or something like that. What struck me the most in this movie was that
as a numerical value. That's right, they say that spiritual things and science are gradually getting closer, don't they? Quantum theory is like that too, isn't it? We're moving a little in that direction. Therefore, if this had been science fiction from 20 or 30 years ago, it would have flopped. I think this was acceptable because it was the 2000s. Topics like superstring theory and quantum theory have come up, suggesting that what we know about physics might be a bit different than before. This idea is now widely recognized, so there's a sense of maybe this too about it.
here, the esteemed teacher is in critical condition, so they call the assistant, Murphy, to exchange final words. Then Professor Brand said, "I was lying. It is meaningless. They are." The "they" refers to the people who are currently out exploring, right? There is no way for them to save us even if they return to Earth. What about Plan A? If we launch the station, oh, this was Murphy's line. If we launch the station, does that mean that equation was also a lie? Did Dad know about that? Dead men tell no tales.
It means I'm not saying it.
That's right. Don't answer the question. It's quite unfair. It seems like the equation had already been solved a long time ago. But what that means is that the answer is that you can't get an answer using this equation. It's like the fact that it can't be solved was already solved.
It's more like it's completed rather than solved. It's not about solving it. It has become clear that the completion of the equation will not be seen.
So, with that being said, next we're going to Dr. Mann's planet.
Finally, Dr. Mann's planet. This is the most interesting part.
As a result, when they arrived at the planet where Dr. Mann was, Dr. Mann's planet was extremely cold and seemed to have a very low temperature.
Is this standing on top of a cloud? It's probably a cloud. This.
I see. That's how it is.
The setting is that the clouds are frozen.
And this is Dr. Mann. They sent a signal saying this planet is habitable and went into cryogenic sleep. They slept without setting a time, in a state where they couldn't wake up unless someone from outside woke them up. In short, if no one comes to help.
If the power runs out, it's over.
That's right. But I woke up from cryosleep. It must have been very lonely, right? Feeling isolated. When Cooper woke him up, he was sobbing and clung to him. Don't worry. I'm afraid there is no room to go rescue the other exploration ships. So it's like, Tell me about this planet. All right, then I'll tell you. Something like that. The cold daytime lasts for 67 hours. The night also lasts for 67 hours and is even colder. The gravity is 80% of Earth's. My body feels lighter. The atmosphere contains a large amount of ammonia, and breathing is possible for only a few minutes. The surface lies beneath this ice. There, chlorine disappears, ammonia turns into crystalline hydrocarbons, and breathing becomes possible. There are also organic substances, perhaps living organisms too. Humanity can coexist. However, a message arrived from Earth via video call. You knew, didn't you, that it was all a lie? Did Dad know too? Did he abandon me? The phrase, "my father dedicated his life to" refers to Professor Brand, doesn't it? My father dedicated his life to Plan A. I don't understand what you're talking about. Did you abandon me? No, I haven't abandoned it. You know, it's like Plan A, right? I don't understand what this is about. Isn't the professor's goal to emigrate? The main point is that Plan A is relocation. My father has been working on solving the mysteries of gravity for 40 years. The equation was solved before I stood up. There was a lack of integration between the theory of relativity and quantum theory. There was a fact that the data inside the black hole was necessary to solve that equation. Did you know that? There are no singularities in nature, so the idea is that you need to go to a black hole and gather information. Otherwise, the equations cannot be solved. So Professor Brand sought an alternative plan to save humanity. That was Plan B. He understood that it was no longer possible for humanity to escape from Earth and survive. Therefore, from the beginning, it was about Plan B, which involved taking fertilized eggs to another planet, and then...
Let's try to increase humanity once more.
This is what's called the Lazarus Plan. Plan B. It was like that from the start. Why keep it a secret? Because if it were made public, it wouldn't be about the seed, but about protecting oneself and one's family. Dr. Mann is saying to Cooper, "You came to save the children too." This Cooper truly values his daughter the most, and he came to space for her. That's the feeling I got.
Please look. Your expression has already turned into a frown, hasn't it? It's like this, really.
Somehow it's sour?
No.
If you make it public, it's not about the species, but about protecting yourself and your family. That's how it is, right?
People say that they don't protect the species, just the people close to them.
I really think this is true. It's a fact. Human evolution is only at that level. Yes, indeed. That's how it is.
It's kind of dissing humans, isn't it? The question is whether that's possible if we evolve.
Humans can still evolve, don't you think? In the current environment, our ascension isn't happening, is it? But if something triggers an ascension, it would be like evolution, wouldn't it?
I suppose so.
This is denying ascension.
That's right.
If there is no ascension, humans can't get any further than this.
That's right. Evolution is at that level.
That might be true.
That's why, in the end, I believe that as a result of evolution, humans should be able to make decisions that protect their species.
The evolution of humans is at that level. He is devoted to his family and friends, but those feelings do not extend beyond his personal sphere. Can you not forgive him? In other words, can you not forgive Professor Brand for what he hid? That's why the professor abandoned himself to try to save the species. Self-sacrifice. Here it is. Until a little while ago, Professor Brand was being criticized and made out to be the worst, wasn't he? Please take a look at the correlation diagram. Here, my daughter is important in her own way. Here, having a significant other is important. In such a situation, I think we find satisfaction through communication with the subject, and we live our daily lives within those choices. That's when I thought Professor Brand was amazing. No one, when I say no one, I mean directly. There is no one who would be pleased. Even though there is no such person, you entrust it to that, and that's your Plan B. I think it's amazing to consider a life that has nothing to do with you, to become the villain yourself, and to have been able to make that choice.
But my daughter... You have a daughter, don't you?
Daughter?
Even if my daughter was Plan B, she is still going with us.
I see. That's right. So there are direct interests involved after all.
Therefore, my daughter and these people will become the foster parents of the first humans, right?
No, I thought that wasn't the case, so I was thinking, an unknown egg donor? You made such an incredible choice to face criticism from everyone for something like that. But now, after Yusan mentioned it, I'm falling apart.
Everyone is different, but that's why they're making choices that are human.
There it is. As expected, this one is just like that one.
If the speed of light is considered to be 100%.
Everyone is human together. No one is alone.
In conclusion, I can only trust robots.
Amelia said, "What should I do? It seems to be troubling. Send me back to Earth."
I can't put up with this farce. Send me back to Earth, or something like that.
I guess that's how it is. The feeling isn't like, if you return me to Earth, I'll somehow manage. Since there was nothing I could do, I came here, so even if I go back, there probably won't be anything I can do.
It probably won't be.
Romilly, this person is making a suggestion. As we discussed earlier, Plan A is not an option.
That's right.
The only option was Plan B, but in this situation, Romilly suggested that Plan A might be possible.
Up until the previous discussion, to put it simply, we can't solve the equation without looking inside the black hole. So it was like, oh, it's impossible. That's where a proposal came in.
The proposal is something like, there's a black hole nearby. So how about we go check it out? Gravity is powerful, but by utilizing tidal forces and cutting across the horizon at high speed, you can survive. The horizon beyond is a complete mystery. If we could observe the singularity and transmit quantum data, in essence, the proposal is that if we could send that information to Earth, the equations could be solved and Plan A could be executed. That's right, TARS, the robot from earlier. TARS is risking its life. Well, it's a robot, so to speak. It's going. Yes. Here, Dr. Mann and Cooper went to explore the surface. Dr. Mann believed without a doubt that this is the planet for humanity. They were getting along, but suddenly Dr. Mann undergoes a drastic change.
Boom!
It's all of a sudden.
Suddenly.
It means to attack. Here is the shocking truth. Dr. Mann says, we cannot live on this planet.
What? You said you could live there.
They said we could live there, so everyone came all the way from Earth. But then they say we can't live there. What's that supposed to mean? In the end, when they came to this planet, they realized, this planet is no good. They understood that, but once it was deemed no good, that person would just end up dying on that planet.
That's the plan, you see.
Yes, if I could live there, I would go to support them, something like that. So even though I should have been prepared to die, when I realized I couldn't actually live there, I lied and said I could.
It was written as, I can live there, and that's what was sent.
The data is all lies? It was mentioned earlier, wasn't it? Something about how we can coexist on this planet, and that there's data supporting it, but all that data is false.
You know, when we entered Dr. Mann's base, the robot was destroyed, right? It was destroyed so that the data wouldn't be exposed and to prevent any access.
I see. As soon as we landed, we realized there was nothing here. If we press the button and send a signal, someone will come to help. So here, Cooper's shield, it gets shattered with a headbutt, and after a while, you end up in a state where you can't breathe.
That's right.
So, this is a scene from above where the two are fighting. When I saw this scene, I was laughing. Is this really what they're doing on a planet far away from Earth?
A scuffle?
It's something like the foolishness of humans. So, Amelia came to help. Cooper narrowly survived. We were deceived by Mann. Romilly was acting separately for a bit, and just as Yusan mentioned earlier, they were trying to somehow use the broken robot for a plan to explore the black hole. It was then that they realized Mann's scheme and thought, this is dangerous. So they said, it's dangerous, so get away from there quickly. Just at that moment, boom.
This really only lasted about 2 seconds. They probably set it to explode as a backup in case someone saw the robot's data, because it would be a problem if it were seen.
There was a bit of lag, wasn't there? Like, what is this?
Yes.
After looking at the data, it felt like a big surprise. Maybe they wanted to make us go, oh, a little bit. It's not like it goes boom the moment you release it.
Sure, let me take a look.
They probably wanted to make you go, oh, for a moment, didn't they?
Well, Dr. Mann has that kind of aspect, doesn't he? He was troubled, wasn't he? So, you kind of set it up with a boom, didn't you? That's the feeling I get.
So at this point, Dr. Mann, of all things, tries to save only himself. How about that? At the very least,
That's right.
Let's negotiate and all do our best together. It's like trying to save only yourself when you could choose the best strategy, or something among everyone.
No. Maybe because they had already lied and made their choice. They knew they couldn't build a cooperative relationship anymore, don't you think?
Well, that's how it goes, I guess. You could say I was troubled, but that's that. I should have just talked about it properly when I was woken up.
That's right. It should have been possible to do something about it. But that's the thing, isn't it? The robot wasn't programmed for that, was it? It's part of the plan, right, the robot? I was thinking that maybe the robot was acting with the understanding that there was only plan B. But it turns out the robot is deceiving us too.
Oh, is that what it means? Eek! Case, Cooper, and Amelia are on the lander, right? And this is the scene where they go to pick up TARS. This is where TARS runs.
That's right. I thought it must be really difficult to run like this without joints.
Is this no good?
No, I think I can do it. It looks like there's a rod going through the top, doesn't it? But somehow, it seems like it's attached by electromagnetic force or something like that. When you see that various parts are connected by joints, you realize that they are actually moving while sliding.
I see. There's an axis here, and it looks like it's rotating around it. But if that's the case, it can't move sideways, right?
It feels like I can't run, but I'm probably running while being a bit off balance. It's well done.
I see. This is indeed not science fiction, isn't it?
It is not science fiction.
Like taking the head of a demon.
Only here.
In an attempt to save himself, Dr. Mann has a mothership in orbit around this planet.
He was thinking of docking with the mothership and going to other planets.
It's already a matter of being left behind, so if the mothership is taken, it's over. Let's have just one person go. You're suggesting that we go and execute Plan B, right?
That's right. Perhaps they thought of going to Edmunds Planet and implementing Plan B. This ship is carrying a massive number of fertilized eggs. Perhaps, if Amelia stayed, it might feel like a good thing, don't you think? If she's around, the fact that we're deceiving her would be exposed either way. Instead, it might be better to take a lot of fertilized eggs, go to the next planet, have children, and after they grow up, you would be the only savior, wouldn't you? There's only one original human. Don't you think that might be better?
A woman who grew from that fertilized egg, and
It should be possible to leave descendants, right?
I see.
I think leaving America as it is poses a greater risk. They're being deceptive.
If the mothership is taken, it's over. Manual docking is impossible. Let's call the doctor. Dr. Mann, stop! Don't open the hatch. If you open it, the airlock will depressurize. It's not properly docked, so this is bad. We'll die. However, Dr. Mann says, I will accomplish the mission. He's referring to Plan B. And then, boom!
Boom. You're opening it, huh?
You opened it, didn't you? The mothership is in pieces. It's a complete mess.
It's true.
Did this go boom and start spinning?
That's right.
This mothership is already spinning like crazy, isn't it? Like, look, what should we do? So, we're trying to dock with this. To dock, we need to align the rotation. So they even start spinning their own aircraft wildly.
Exactly.
It's spinning around like this. Cooper also manages to dock, and then it's locked. It caught on with a clank.
It seems that there's a possibility both of them might faint. If they do faint, leave it to the robot. Something like that. It fell, didn't it? This mothership, all this time, it was generating heat, since it entered the atmosphere. With the lander's engine, it lifted up with a roar. For the time being, I've managed to avoid the angle of falling.
The mothership took quite a bit of damage due to Dr. Mann's trouble, but thanks to the backup power, the eggs are safe. If the eggs are really gone, then it's over, isn't it?
There is no Plan B either.
So, here, it's like overcoming one difficulty only to face another. The star is orbiting around a black hole, known as Dr. Mann's planet, so there is a black hole nearby. It's being pulled in. It's the kind of situation where you fall into a black hole. The navigation system is completely down. Maintaining life until reaching Earth is difficult, but on Edmunds Planet, it is possible. Edmunds, who is part of the Pioneer team, is Dr. Brand Amelia's lover. He says that this planet is viable. But what about the fuel? That's right, there's no fuel. Not enough. But I have an idea. Let's go straight to the horizon of Gargantua and make a gravity turn directly to Edmund's star. We'll turn at the very last moment. Alright, once the ship reaches sufficient speed, the lander will ignite. There is the mothership, the lander, and Ranger 2, and then as characters there's the robot Case and Tars. These all get mixed up together. Just watching it once, you can't make sense of it.
That's right.
I really struggled. I truly struggled. The lander fires its thrusters, allowing it to escape gravity. When the fuel is used up, separate, and then Tars will plunge into the black hole. Is separation necessary? The third law of motion. To move forward, you have to leave something behind. Cooper, are you sacrificing Tars? This is my mission. If we have the quantum data of a black hole, we can save humanity. The equation that Professor Brand gave up on earlier. It seems that we can input values into it, and there's a possibility that Plan A can be executed.
The gravity changes during a gravity turn, doesn't it? We also pass through some really strong places. If you calculate it, that's probably a total of 51 years.
Oh, a total of 51 years. Anyway, an astonishingly short amount of time has passed. 51 years, in fact. That's the situation when you get close to a black hole. At this point, Cooper has essentially abandoned his daughter. This part made me tear up a bit.
I've already moved on. It's like, it's already been 51 years. But here, actually, Cooper is starting to realize something. This person has been trying to plunge into the black hole for a while now. Because after all, it's already been over 20 years, and it's certain that they can't go back. Isn't there some way to do it? Can't we turn back time or something? There was that talk about black holes, right? That's why he's a bit hopeful, about black holes. Therefore, rather than saying I became a victim, I haven't given up.
Well, I guess I overestimated it a bit again.
I think it's fine. It's not like self-sacrifice is a good thing, right? Really, his determination to not give up is amazing.
That's right. So we're going to plunge into the black hole. What about the time discrepancy? We'll ignore the theory of relativity for now. I'm sorry. When wondering why Amelia apologized, it occurred to me that if we use the slingshot effect of the black hole, we can reach Edmunds Planet. By the same logic, if we calculate that force, I thought we might be able to return to Earth. There were options, but I chose this one.
Probably, given the current situation, if Cooper could return, he would have already done so.
Got it. This is the only option we have. Returning to Earth won't solve anything, right? Because by approaching the black hole, we might be able to gather data from it. Even if we collect the data, send it back to Earth, and solve the mystery of gravity. And even if we manage to escape from Earth, there is nowhere to go. We need to confirm whether that Edmunds Planet is habitable or not.
Hypothetically speaking, if we could obtain data from inside a black hole, and the matters related to gravity could be resolved over there, humanity would be able to live on a space station. Therefore, as a possibility he envisions, we can only hope for something a bit outlandish, like being able to transmit data from a black hole or turn back time, to be possible there.
In the end, I feel like it might be a wise choice if we go by the process of elimination.
Ultimately, yes. However, if you think about it normally, it's hard to imagine something happening by sheer luck after falling into a black hole. But here, they are present, and a bit of something mysterious is happening. So, it's a situation where you can expect some mysterious things to occur.
I see.
Normally, you would never do it. Something like going into a black hole.
The reason for going into the wormhole is because you felt the presence of something, right?
That's right. But first, they sent a probe, and once they confirmed it was possible, 12 people went. This is on a completely different level, isn't it? Going inside a black hole.
That's right. Neither an exploration ship nor a pioneer has gone there, and we're going for the first time now.
One chance.
That's quite a courageous story, isn't it? When you watch it, you think, oh, it's science fiction, right? Something like that. I end up seeing it that way, after all. Like in horror movies, you think the protagonist is going to be saved anyway, right?
Ah, I see. That certainly makes sense.
Yes, so we are just about to perform a swing-by. Preparing to separate the lander, the countdown begins, and TARS falls into the black hole, sending data, and that's where TARS's role ends. It's all over. Goodbye, TARS. And next, Ranger number 2, prepare for separation. I need to properly explain the background around here, but there's something called lander.
It's an airplane that looks like a rugged rock.
There are two machines, with TARS on one of them. Brand and Amelia, this woman, are on the other machine, and Cooper is on something called Ranger 2. There was something called Ranger 1, but Dr. Mann just destroyed it earlier.
He broke it.
So, the 4 machines I just mentioned were attached to the mothership. That's the situation. I will introduce it to you later, as Yusan actually found the scene where you might wonder how you could possibly know that by searching diligently. As such, earlier TARS went into the black hole with the lander. This time, Cooper is on board preparing to separate Ranger 2. This wasn't something that was discussed in the meeting with this woman. We were supposed to go to Edmunds Star together. That's how it was supposed to be. But suddenly I was told, prepare to separate Ranger 2. And I was like, huh? Wait, what do you mean? I'll ask Yusan to say this part. Please say it with a nice voice.
Newton's third law of motion. You have to leave something behind.
Thank you very much. That's why my daughter is like that, and I'm fine with it too. It's something like that, right?
And then, feeling the possibility, you enter the black hole. Your eyes weren't dead. It sounds a bit confusing, doesn't it? But you get that feeling, right?
Now that you mention it.
Normally you might feel like, ugh, but I'm full of motivation. This face shows it.
I was thinking, wow, that's why they're putting all their effort into Plan B, huh?
Ah, I see.
When I think about it that way, it seemed like Cooper's self-sacrifice.
I usually associate it with self-sacrifice.
I was really impressed by Professor Brand's self-sacrifice. What are you going to do about it?
I don't know.
We need to leave something behind. So Lander 2 will separate from the mothership. It comes up here. My honesty level is 90%. Shall we try saying it?
Again? My honesty level is 90%.
Don't go. Separation. Boom. So, they're falling into a black hole. The controls aren't responding due to gravity. It's like, boom, we're being sucked into a black hole. It feels like we're burning. It's already completely white. It's like being inside the light.
It's really bright, isn't it?
Eject, 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 eject. Basically, it's like saying this machine is going to explode. We have to escape.
Oh no, oh no.
It's bad, but even if it happens, it's still bad.
Even if you go out, it's a black hole, you know.
So, rather than just letting it go boom, like this, let's eject. That means we'll eject it outside the ship, using the escape device right into the black hole. The image I have of black holes is that they form naturally, but it feels like falling into something that resembles a geometric structure. When I saw this, I thought, it's all over. It's like the afterlife or something.
Ah, it felt like that, didn't it?
Ah, geez.
I've come to a strange world.
Confused, Anyway, it's like escaping from a black hole, and that's the end of it, right? It's something like how something will turn out. A black hole is a concept where it's said that not even light can escape, isn't it? In that situation, you just pop out on your own, and it's already over.
Whether you become one with it or not, it's important.
Yet, within this, the story progresses. So, as I mentioned earlier, in a space surrounded by geometric structures, you actually meet Murphy there, the Murphy from the past.
It was the best tension of the day.
It was surprising at first glance, or rather, it caught me off guard. Ah, it was a dream.
Well, I did indeed think so.
There are various foreshadowing elements, but at the end, when dying, you can see the child's face.
They were saying that,
Hey, oh, it was a dream. So, scenes that seem familiar appear. It was in the opening, wasn't it? Like books falling off the shelves, toys being broken, or stories about ghosts. It didn't really resonate with me, and in the end it's like, is time and space twisted or something, and are we seeing something like that? Either way, there's nothing you can do about it, right?
Yes, that's what I thought too.
I was thinking, and here the keyword stay comes up, like don't go, and I thought, I've seen this somewhere before. When the father is going to space in the opening, when Murphy deciphers the Morse code, it says stay. At this point it hit me. Actually, the one who was sending messages as a ghost was Cooper.
That's right. It was actually the person themselves who was dropping books and sending various signals.
Even so, the past can't be changed, right? I was told to stay by that girl, but even if I came flying out of space and came here, saying stay, again doesn't change anything, does it? This is an empty paradox.
Yes. To begin with, this is a paradox. At this point, Cooper is completely absorbed, so he probably doesn't remember the conversation from before. So, anyway, he's desperately trying to say, stay. I'm sending it. That ultimately leads to that scene, but they must also know that it won't change. After all, they've already experienced stay in reality.
Here, you can catch a glimpse of past scenes through the gaps in the bookshelf. Say it, tell me to stay here. It's like telling Murphy to say it to his past self. Don't let me go. Here, it transitions to a scene on Earth. It's a conversation between Murphy and their lover, and it goes, I can feel it. It's that ghost. A long time ago, something like a supernatural phenomenon occurred. It was when I was a child. People would say, maybe that ghost was trying to convey something. If there is anything, it would be in that room. So when I went there, that's when I realized it. It's you, Papa. In those days, it was Dad who was the ghost, wasn't it? Here, it's another space scene, and it says, this seems to be a 5-dimensional world. This is actually communicating with TARS, which just went out first, inside the black hole.
Yes, TARS is alive too.
So you're having a conversation, right? It seems to be a 5-dimensional world. What about the quantum data? I recorded it. TARS is saying, we tried every wavelength, but we couldn't send it. No, it can be sent. Like earlier, in a way similar to Morse code. You're trying to send binary data, aren't you? Even so, this data is too difficult for children. It's impossible. Decoding it is. It's my daughter. Even if it could be sent, it would take years to decipher. But if we don't do something, humanity will go extinct. I wasn't called to change the past. It wasn't them who called. It was us. Give me NASA's coordinates in binary data. That's how it is. Here, at the core of this story, were NASA's secret facility, the encounter with Professor Brand and Amelia. The binary data goes to that facility.
The data for the coordinates,
Here it is said that it decides for itself what it was sending.
This is strange, isn't it? The stay from earlier, In the end, I'm the one sending it. It's not clear what kind of understanding Cooper had here, but it seems like things are already decided. So, I think this means that I've realized my mission is to send NASA's data and gravity data from here. It seems like he's making decisions here, but it's probably already heading in that direction, even though I'm aware of it. The fact that he's doing it feels a bit strange. Anyway, the only option or action left here is to send it. The way history has unfolded is already like that. However, it feels like we have a choice, doesn't it? That's a bit mysterious.
So the scene where sand falls from the ceiling and creates something like a barcode on the ground, this is actually that scene. It's not a ghost, it's gravity. Right now, we are connected to the third dimension. It wasn't me. Murph was the one who was chosen. At first, I thought I was the one selected and brought here, but then I realized that it was actually Murph who had been chosen. I had the role of conveying the message, chosen to save the Earth. So, it turns out that the person who was making these striped curtains was actually me.
They've been quite involved for a while now, haven't they?
Oh, so if you looked at it from below, would it have been like, whoa, wouldn't it?
It probably won't happen, because the dimensions are different.
It felt like a close encounter, like, oh, there's something.
It is probably the case that people who are normally three-dimensional cannot see the fourth dimension, right? From 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions, you can't see it, right? Because you can't perceive it. However, during the close encounter, it was something like a 4-dimensional space, right? That. So maybe it was visible because it was in the same dimension.
I see.
I can't really say anything because I don't understand it. There is a bit of curiosity about what observation data from a singularity might be. It is referred to as quantum data, but I think most of it is the observation of electromagnetic waves. Or it might be the observation of gravitational waves or something like that, if it's something like this. I'm really curious about what kind of data it is. I think there are several types of data. Sound data and wave data are 2-dimensional. There are vertical and horizontal axes, right? But video data has the axis of the first and second dimensions, plus the axis of color. This makes it 3-dimensional. There's a significant difference in the amount of data. Whether it can be sent or not depends on what kind of data this is. If this were 3-dimensional data, well, if we were sending something like this Morse code, it would be a question of how long it would take. However, TARS just said it will take years, didn't it? That's why I think they sent about that amount. So, I wonder if it was 3D data.
This is a girl's room. All time is infinite. They transcend time and space freely, bound by nothing. That's why I'm here, to tell Murph. How? Here it is. It's love. Love. That's where I realized earlier. Oh, it's Dad. That's it. I really love Dad.
It's because you're thinking about Dad, isn't it?
About all possibilities, like Papa. When I think about various things, like Papa, I guess I'll probably find the answer.
That's right. Something like, when a mosquito lands on you, you ask, Dad? In any case, it was like, Papa? I think.
How do we send the data? The answer is a wristwatch. We'll transmit the data through the movement of the second hand. Convert the data into Morse code. So this clock, it moves like this, ticking away. It's basically a broken clock. The hands don't move forward, they just go back and forth. Everyone, perhaps in your daily life, it might not be clock hands, but if you come across a scene like this, you would probably think, ah, this clock is broken.
There probably is.
And on the contrary, if you think this was a message from something, it's about everything, not just what I mentioned earlier about Dad.
Ah, I see.
It could end up like that. There's a part of me that feels a bit scared about it.
There is. I see.
In everyday life, when you're worried about something, inspiration just suddenly comes to you, right? You often say that when you're meditating, nothing just suddenly comes to you. I do have it.
No, I definitely don't think so. I have the answer to that. Let's just say it's your imagination.
It's just my imagination. I have a feeling that maybe something, perhaps my future self or something else, is reaching out to me and it just clicks.
I see.
If I were to find some sort of solution or something there, I wonder if something interstellar-like is happening to me as well.
I see.
There is something I need to remember, but I'm not trying to recall it. Yet it suddenly pops into my mind, and I wonder, why did I think of this now?
That's a story full of dreams, isn't it?
That's right. Here, when the needle was flickering, I realized that this was a signal being sent by Dad. So Murphy sets out to decipher it. I'm not sure how much time it took, though.
I wonder what would happen if I fell asleep along the way.
I see.
Maybe while I'm asleep, Cooper is also stopped. Then, when I wake up, I'll start it again. Move it the moment you hold the pen. You should be able to do it that way. Really, you pulled it off well.
Here it is. Eureka. It seems like I was able to decode and quantify the message from Dad.
What was that cheer you say when you've accomplished something?
I looked this up. A rough translation would be that it means, I got it. Apparently, Archimedes shouted it when he discovered buoyancy. He discovered buoyancy in the bath, and there's an urban legend that he ran out into the street naked shouting, Eureka! In any case, that's the tradition, and that's how we do things at this institute. Here it is, the so-called scene where I watched Interstellar and thought, this is something only I can do, is right here. Your boyfriend is going to appear, right? Huh? That's Takeso, isn't it?
No, that way?
I guess I have to say this now.
I thought so too.
Here you go. Do you think it was successful? Of course. How do you know? They began to close the 4-dimensional cube. The space started to close, and in the end, it's like being thrown out into outer space. And this, it's the mothership, right? About the close encounter we mentioned earlier, the one Amelia had a close encounter with through the wormhole was actually Cooper.
This is why we passed by each other, right? It's about the moment when Cooper, Amelia, Romilly, and Doyle entered the wormhole, isn't it? When he broke through, he was trying to come out from the other universe into our solar system. It was at the moment when we passed by each other, you see. And then it was like, after this, we'll be thrown out near Saturn.
So, what you can see behind me is Saturn.
That's right, it's Saturn. So, it's like the exit or entrance of a wormhole.
Well, they might have been able to send data back to Earth, but there's also the pattern where they're thrown out into space and the main character dies. It's that kind of movie, you know? Or so I thought. But then, whoa, I was surprised. Like, was it all just a dream? No, I thought I was in pretty serious trouble. Seeing something this grand, it felt like a dream. Kind of like that. It made me feel a bit uneasy, though.
Well. It certainly does make me anxious.
Huh? Was it a dream? It's like that. I mean, if you make it a dream ending, anything goes, right?
Well. I imagined various things, like maybe they came from 10,000 years in the future. I wonder if after being inside the black hole for such a long time, maybe tens of thousands of years have already passed.
The answer is, well, you're not young anymore. You are now 124 years old.
Something like, what? Really?
So it wasn't just a dream. Time is definitely moving forward and I'm 124 years old. Ah, I see. Something like that.
It's been about 50 years, which is approximately around that time, isn't it?
I agree. When it was discovered, there were 2 minutes of oxygen remaining. This is Cooper Station. Is it okay that 50-something years have passed in the black hole?
Self has flexible hours. Wasn't it good?
Right? If your time is flexible.
Return it or something, even though we passed by each other.
Earlier, when we were passing through the wormhole, we passed by each other, didn't we? Did you go back to that time? Murphy was taken back to when he was still a child or something like that.
I wanted you to go back there.
Isn't it possible? That's what I was thinking a little.
I see. It's really a world beyond our understanding, isn't it? Well, in the end, we were probably guided to settle down at this time, weren't we?
Well, it could have been set anywhere, but whether to go back to a certain era or move forward to that era, I think probably Murphy is at the last possible moment.
That's right.
Even in terms of the movie.
It's interesting, isn't it? I'm not quite sure about this, though. This Cooper Station. You mentioned it's orbiting Saturn, right? That's why humanity has already made a lot of these, and they're everywhere now, really. To be honest, it probably turned out pretty well, really. If we could control gravity, everyone could live on space stations floating in space. And I think we're not really considering going near dangerous places like Gargantua.
I see. Here it is, where Murph is alive.
It's a reunion. I was like, that's great, really?
However, physically, Murphy was quite a bit older. That was me. The ghost is me. I knew it.
You must have been happy to have this exchange. Murph, too.
Dad promised. This was in the opening, wasn't it? Cooper's father-in-law says to him when he's about to go into space, "Don't make promises you can't keep." That's when Cooper says something like, "I'll definitely come back," doesn't he? Wow, I thought I messed up. It means I ended up keeping the promise, you know.
I did it, right? I mean, I never expected we could meet again here. It was almost completely hopeless, wasn't it?
It's like being shot into a black hole and it's all over, or being thrown out around Saturn and it's all over. But my dad promised that he would definitely come back. When I hear this, I think I should say it.
I see.
No, I might not be able to promise this, so I'm just saying it for now. Something like that.
It's Murphy's Law, isn't it? But, you know, it also kind of looks like it's well put together. If an interesting story is discovered, it's usually a collection of miracles, isn't it? Thinking about it that way, I guess it's okay.
Dad promised, so I came back. This is really a case of, if you say it, you win.
That's why it seems like they were planning it. But I think this person probably believed without a doubt, until the very end.
It is unimaginable for a parent to witness the death of their child. That's why go to Amelia. She is waiting for everyone in the distant universe. In a galaxy that no one knows, he looks a bit sad, doesn't he? The reason is Edmunds, his lover.
It was dead.
I didn't say they died, but it's a story that hints at the possibility of them being dead.
But somehow, it does look like a grave, doesn't it?
There was something, wasn't there? This is just a rumor, but it seems like Interstellar 2 might be coming out.
Ah, right.
Edmunds is alive.
However, if Edmunds were alive, I'd want to see what it means for Cooper to keep going.
No, it's a love romance there.
I see, you're interested in romance.
That's amazing if something like that existed.
But I'm really looking forward to it, when 2 comes out.
Right? But I looked into this. It's not listed anywhere.
For real? Is it a hoax?
Who said 2 is coming out? That's a rumor. I said something boring. The thing that was suddenly hard to believe was, what are they going to do by making a sequel? I thought it would just end up being a, they went and did it, huh, kind of situation.
Ah, I see. The bar has been raised quite a bit, hasn't it?
Isn't it fine already here? I have this feeling of wondering what more I'm trying to seek at this point.
It's fine to say that the moon isn't a celestial body, isn't it? Something like that.
I see.
At that level.
Something like, that can just be the prologue, right? If we make a sequel to this, it's over. Isn't it at that level?
Yes. But if it exists, I'd like to watch it.
Of course.
I want to know what happens next.
However, if you say you're going to release this, it takes considerable courage, so you can't release it unless you have a lot of confidence.
Ah, well, you know.
I told Murphy, go to Amelia. It's like you like her, don't you? Something like that.
Yes.
You understand, huh?
That's right.
Maybe I was saying Amelia in my sleep. They solved the problem of gravity and are orbiting around Saturn, you know. In a stable situation, if it turns out that Edmunds' star is habitable, would Edmunds' star be better after all? What do you think?
At first glance, it seems like it's become a world where there's no need to go anymore, right?
Is that how it will be?
I think that's how it will be.
Alright, so Amelia went to Edmunds Planet using the slingshot maneuver we mentioned earlier, right?
Yes.
I wonder if it would have been better to have returned to Earth.
The discussion there is like that, but I think I couldn't go back.
That's right. If I had two options to choose from, and assuming I could return, even if I solved the mystery of gravity, returned to Earth, and escaped from Earth, the story wouldn't connect if there was no planet to go to. So, if I did it, I would send the mystery of gravity through communication and go search for another planet. If it's between these two options, I thought the latter might be better. But if, as was just mentioned, even with the latter option, we might not end up living on Edmunds Planet, then there might be some issues.
Well, that's right.
Who ultimately created the wormhole?
It's supposed to be about the humans of the future.
The future of humanity is something that we ourselves might create in the past, you know.
I suppose so.
That's a paradox, isn't it?
It's a paradox. Well, since it's already in the fifth dimension or something, I guess it's possible.
From now on, she will enter a long, long sleep. So, this is the last scene. At this point, I initially thought about it. Earlier, when escaping Gargantua using a slingshot maneuver, there were two landers attached to the mothership, and originally there were two rangers attached as well. But one got wrecked, and TARS boarded one of the landers and fell into the black hole. Here, at first, I didn't know that there were two landers attached.
That's right.
So I thought, did she go all the way to this planet on the mothership? I had doubts about whether that was possible.
That's impossible.
It's impossible, right? So, to solve this problem here, the part that Yusan desperately searched for is right here. This scene is initially about taking off from Earth and docking with the mothership that was orbiting Earth. After docking, we were able to see the whole picture a bit. Mothership, lander, and ranger. When you look at it normally, it just seems like there's a mothership, one lander, and one ranger. That's about it. But there's only one ranger, and Dr. Mann ends up destroying it, doesn't he?
That's right. I'll break it.
And then suddenly, Ranger number 2 appears. Like, huh? Where did number 2 come from?
You thought so, didn't you?
Moreover, just a moment ago, one of the landers with TARS on board fell into the black hole.
Something like, how did Amelia descend to the stars?
Yes. In order to solve this mystery, the scene that you frantically searched for is this one.
Yes.
This mothership comes with two rangers, you know?
That's right. Combined together.
This kind of like opens up, you know? Here.
The lander is there, isn't it?
The lander. One on each side.
One at a time.
As such, in terms of what can be boarded, there is one mothership, two landers, and Rangers 1 and 2. Like that.
It says there were 4 from the beginning.
It happened. It's not science fiction.
It's not science fiction. The earlier scene where Amelia descended to the surface, and in the final scene, the lander was properly placed, wasn't it?
Oh, really? This is a lander, isn't it? I didn't notice.
I realized that they came down in a lander.
I see. Did all of this get loaded onto the lander?
I see. It seems that the lander is a transport ship.
I see.
But they're taking off their helmets. It's a place where you can live, right?
It can be lived in.
Once we have the resources, perhaps everyone will move here. Humanity, that is. This movie, right from the start, with the name Murphy, is something else. What can possibly happen will inevitably happen at some point. I'm not sure how to interpret that, but isn't it a matter of causality? It's a time paradox. I think they're talking about it in an interesting way. But, it's obvious. Yet there's also the idea that there are infinite patterns, isn't there? If there are infinite patterns such as parallel worlds, then the possibility of Murphy's Law is not zero. It might be that something that is bound to happen in some dimension will occur, and it feels like it's suggesting that this world is actually far more complex than we think. For example, various theories and such come up a lot, don't they? Like mathematical formulas. But ultimately, the formulas we come up with can only provide one-to-one solutions, right? For example, people assume that calculating things like typhoons is a given. or that calculating the trajectory for a swing by is easy, and everyone thinks humans can do it perfectly, but in reality, we can't do it at all. There are actually mistakes because we exclude errors when calculating. So, I was reminded once again that we live in an incredibly complex world. That's why I think that people who can handle 4-dimensional or 5-dimensional problems are those who have the ability to solve complex calculations. We can't do it at all. Actually, we can only calculate one-on-one. But you might think, well, we can do weather forecasts, but that's just done with calculus. So, errors keep accumulating in that too, and it becomes a world where predictions aren't very accurate a week later. If those were 5-dimensional or 4-dimensional beings, they would definitely be spot on. Well, this kind of imagination is amazing, isn't it? It's quite hard to imagine up to this point, isn't it? Inside the black hole, it suddenly feels like it turns into something out of a fantasy. This, shouldn't have been possible a little while ago, right? Recently, there are parts where quantum theory and the theory of relativity don't match. Quantum theory is completely different from what we've known so far, and there are many aspects that we can't understand. These things are being discovered now. It's like the spiritual world is getting closer, isn't it? That's why it's surprising that this is considered acceptable. I think it's amazing how they read the Times and decided to suddenly turn it into a story about ghosts, which is like the flip side of a spiritual story, thinking, this will work, and created it like that. A little while ago, it would have been impossible. This time, I would like to say that it's not science fiction, but in this movie, although it's somewhat cliché, there's a message about resisting death. It makes you think about what it means to live, and what it means to live as a species. It's likely a movie that makes you ponder these questions. It was precisely about the instinct for survival. Actually, watching this movie made me think about something. It is understood, either physically or empirically, that matter always moves in the direction of maintaining equilibrium. Therefore, matter, or rather the world, moves in the direction of stability. This is also true for waves. The waves are rising, but they get cancelled out, don't they? I used to think that waves would cancel each other out and become zero, until now. It may seem like waves cancel each other out, but that's not actually the case. When they cancel, they don't become zero. Energy is conserved. There's a law of conservation, so even if they cancel, they turn into something else. Whether that's heat or something else, it transforms into energy. In other words, the world is never filled with complete stability. I always thought that since the world moves in the direction of stability, it would eventually end up in a state where there's nothing. Looking at this, I thought about various things. But upon further reflection, that's right, isn't it? I think that being completely filled with stability is probably impossible. When something becomes stable, something else becomes unstable. I vaguely feel that there has been a change in this perception, as I have always thought that life is a technique devised by a mass of matter that wants to maintain its form. Objects may crumble, but living beings continuously undergo metabolism solely to maintain their form. I thought that was what life is, but I've been pondering what happens at the end of life's continuous struggle. I believe this is a story about how life resists stability. It's about that topic from beginning to end, right? As a result of continuing to resist, I suppose they will probably end up controlling the entire universe. That's what I ultimately thought, as if this story was created as a result of that. So, it's probably about the control of the entire universe. After watching this, my final impression is that it's an incomprehensible story on a dimension different from our own universe. That's why I feel a sense of emptiness from not being able to find an answer. I thought that by the time I finished watching this story, it would just be a depressing tale that I wouldn't understand anyway. But somehow, it connects to the grasp of the entire universe. In that sense, the image was slightly elevated, and to be honest, I was actually excited.
Earlier, it was said that, in the end, the only thing you can really trust is a robot. In the end, what humans create, or rather, they won't do anything beyond that. It won't surpass that.
Why do I think I can rely on a robot?
It seems like they are being quite affected by real, living people, aren't they?
I'm pretty beaten up, I see.
In that sense,
I won't do anything unpredictable. If we're talking about what can ultimately be trusted, I guess it would be robots. Probably, yes.
that's how it is, isn't it? It was said that Interstellar is not science fiction, but is it science fiction?
Sure then.